next episode of Breaking the Law and the finale of the Final Fantasy IX Cycle of Rebirth miniseries. In this episode, we're diving into two opposites that are very prevalent throughout the story of Final Fantasy IX, life and death. With that, we'll be covering the Crystal, Necron, and their relevance to Samsara. So with that, let's dive into it and start with the Crystal. The Crystal has a lot of symbolism in Final Fantasy IX. It is the main logo of the game, and it is a term we hear a lot towards the story's conclusion. However, the Crystal is something that we do not see until right at the end of the game, where Zidane and the party head through Memoria, following memories of the past and lead them directly to it. But what is the Crystal, and why is it so important? The Crystal is the origin of everything, capable of producing other crystals that become the worlds across the Final Fantasy IX universe. Everything we know of from the game originated from the Crystal at some point in time. The world crystals allow life to flourish on them. As time passes, they begin their cycle of rebirth. Life develops, and once it dies, it returns to the world crystal, where its memories are sorted and allow more complex life to be created. This is a process that all worlds have, which is what we learn from Gaia and Terra, even though Gaia's cycle is disrupted and Terra's has been halted to prevent it from dying. One day, the world will die and the world crystal will be reborn into a new world. All of this is possible because of the Crystal, allowing life to exist across the vastness of space. Garland expresses that the Crystal is in its own realm, but is essentially the center of the universe. It is unknown if Kuja opened the way to Memoria or Gaia's Crystal did, but Garland helps the party follow their memories, even those passed down through ancestry, ultimately leading them to the source of all life, the Crystal, that Garland describes as the presence that presides over all life and memories. Once the party follows their memories far enough into the past, they reach the Crystal world. It appears that this world has been warped by Kuja in some form, showing crystal forms of the four guardians he had brought back to life and evolved during his time in Memoria, which is very much a reference to Final Fantasy I that I will go into in another video. In the central chamber, Kuja explains what the Crystal is and his plan for it. He tells the party it is the origin of all things, and once he destroys it, everything will be gone. He wants to take it out and everything with it, due to his short lifespan that is soon coming to an end. Without the Crystal, there can be no life, no memories, nothing. Which leads us onto our next topic of the video, Necron. Necron is the subject of a lot of controversy in Final Fantasy IX, as many fans believe that he is just there, that he turns up at the end just as a filler rather than something they had planned as the final boss. He was actually meant to be Hades originally, who was the secret boss hidden in Memoria, but this was changed during development. Necron never has any background or lore given to him prior to this point, however he is very prevalent within the game, which I'll go into shortly. I want to talk about some of the theories that have been discussed throughout the years as to what Necron actually is. The first is that Necron was an Eidolon who was sealed inside the Crystal. Like other Eidolons who are associated with gemstones and other special items, some believe that Necron was tied to the Crystal, but due to his power he was sealed away inside it. When Kuja attempts to destroy the Crystal, some believe that it released Necron in the process, who now seeks to destroy everything. Another theory that some believe is that Necron is the true form of the Ether Tree. During the events of Disc 2, we head inside and see the refining process of Gaian souls into mist. What is occurring is unknown to them at that point, but they know it is the source of the mist. That is until the soul cage descends. This tree-like being is unable to lie and explains to the party how it distributes the mist through the roots of the Ether Tree, inciting war to cause more death. Zidane and the others are able to defeat it and stop the production of the mist. However, Garland reveals that the soul cage only oversaw the physical manifestation of the Ether Tree and its functions. It was merely the back door, only showing them the souls being refined. This is where people believe Necron comes into it, that the side of the Ether Tree we cannot see is Necron sorting through the Terran and Gaian souls to further the plan that Garland had in place. They theorize that this is the form of the Ether Tree that presides over life and death, but once it further pushed Gaian souls through it to start the refining process, it became sentient and looked for a reason to kill everything and turn it to nothing. These are both interesting theories, adding some weight to the possible lore of Necron. However, neither of them are the case. As the Crystal defines life within the Final Fantasy IX universe, Necron is the polar opposite. He embodies nothingness and is the true god of death, living outside the boundaries of the life the crystal has created. We don't need to physically see him to know that he is there. From start to finish, there is a lingering feeling of death in Final Fantasy IX. We see Queen Branch starting wars with neighbouring kingdoms, killing thousands in the process. We learn that the mist is made of the souls of the dead, that Garland had Kuja murder the summoners of Madain Sari, that black mages live and die due to a short lifespan, and that Terra is dying and requires the sacrifice of other worlds to keep it going, eventually leading to all souls on Gaia dying as a result. This symbolism of death throughout a story that revolves around learning what it means to live and how to continue on through the darkest of times, culminates into a climactic final showdown with death itself. A being that has been there from the start of the game, watching from the outside of the cycle of rebirth to see if life deserves to continue on. Necron is more prevalent than people think he is, as he is death itself. After Kuja mentally breaks from the realization of his waning mortality, he believes that if he can't live, then nobody can. He takes it upon himself to enter Memoria and venture through the past memories of the universe, all the way back to where the crystal awaits, standing guard to stop Zidane and the party from defying the fate that is about to befall them. With his life fading, Kuja decides to send out one final guardian before taking on the party himself, but both attempts to stop them result in failure. In a last-ditch attempt, Kuja unleashes one final ultimate spell. The party are almost killed, and Kuja flies through the ring surrounding the crystal. It is here that Zidane awakens on the Hill of Despair, a place filled with the screams of the dead, looked down upon by a large ring and spoken to by a mysterious voice, the voice of Necron. People believe in that instance where Kuja used Ultima, he was able to destroy the crystal and it resulted in the Zero World to appear. This isn't the case. It is Kuja's fear of death and willingness to destroy the crystal that summoned Necron, possibly due to him flying through the ring surrounding the crystal which broke through to the Zero World. Necron believes that Kuja's fear and willingness to destroy the crystal is a sign that all life wants to die. In this instance, he wants to return all life to the Zero, so that their fear of death will dissipate and everything will cease to exist. He wanted to grant the world its desire for death, which is in Necron's nature as the god of death. Seeing that from birth, life is destined to die, and no matter the life lived, it will result in anxiety, fear, anger, and suffering. The only release is the peace of death. Zidane stands against Necron's words, shouting that not all life wishes for death. There are those who want to keep on living. Necron does not believe Zidane's words, stating that all life will choose destruction over existence. Zidane once again stands up to Necron, stating that their lives and memories can overcome any fear, that they will still keep on living, and that he wants to live and go on. The 4 party members that are not chosen give the last of their energy to the 4 others in order to give them the strength to fight Necron. It is here that 4 remaining party members are raised up to the Zero, to fight not only for their existence, but the existence of everything, stood in front of the god of death as he launches wave upon wave of devastating attacks, testing their willingness to live. The party are able to defeat Necron, and Kuja teleports them all to safety outside the Ether Tree, leaving Necron to collapse in on himself, explaining that he is eternal, that as long as there is life and death, he will exist waiting inside the Zero World. This is the last we see of Necron, but his words are a chilling reminder to our own mortality. In their efforts, the party managed to convince Necron that the will to live is extraordinarily powerful, and even though they escape thanks to Kuja, he allows life and the crystal to continue on. Now that we have covered the limited story and history of the 2 beings of life and death, we can look at how they affect the Wheel of Samsara. As Samsara is the wheel of life and rebirth, it stands to reason that both the Crystal and Necron are ubiquitous to its workings. The Crystal is Buddha itself, representing the creator of all things that lives on the outside of the wheel, aiding the lives across the worlds it creates to the path of Nirvana. Everything inside the Crystal's universe follows the principles of the 12 independent factors that I mentioned back in the first episode of this mini-series. As a refresher, these are essentially the 12 states of life and death, which are caused by the previous factor and leading into the next, connected like a chain, which in essence results in the constant cycle of life, death, and rebirth. It always starts with the state of Bardo, From Bardo, it leads into the first factor of ignorance, linking to the next factor, up to the 12th factor of aging and death, sending the soul back into the state of Bardo, thus starting the cycle of rebirth all over again, placing the soul within one of the 6 realms depending on how they live their life and the karma they generated. This is what Samsara is all about, and each world follows the precepts of the 6 realms, but as we only see 2 worlds which are in the process of merging, their wheels have intertwined. Like our own universe, we don't truly know how it began. Scientists believe it started with the Big Bang, while different religions of the world had their own beliefs as to how it came to be. This is the same for Final Fantasy IX. We don't know how the crystal came to be or how it began to create other crystals filled with life to go on to produce worlds. What we do know is that the crystal is the center of the universe. The crystal world that the party arrived in at the end of the game has grown out from the original crystal, creating a chaotic environment that is not too dissimilar to how Earth would have been in its early days. Like our universe, it is possible that it is constantly expanding, resulting in crystals breaking off from this crystal world, floating through space and causing them to birth into new worlds and create new life. However, this is just a theory based on how worlds are born and reborn in the Final Fantasy IX universe. Once a crystal becomes its own world, it begins its own cycle of rebirth. The world settles, creating an environment and terraforming it into suitable conditions for life to begin. It is possible that the crystals are capable of creating basic life forms at first. As these creatures live and die, the memories they develop allows the crystal to create more complex life, leading the worlds to constantly change and evolve as more memories pass through its crystal, eventually birthing civilizations, ecosystems, and even creating eidolons from myths and legends. Once a world crystal dies, it is reborn in the vast cosmos and becomes a new world, potentially holding some memories of the world it once was to start again and thus becoming its own cycle of rebirth. These worlds would follow the same principles of Samsara, and during the rebirth process, the crystals would be in a state of Bardo, until the time and conditions were right for them to be born again. With all this in mind, we can see how the crystal is the representation of Buddha and how each world in essence becomes its own version of Samsara, watched over by a god who tries to point them in the right direction of Nirvana through memories. We can theorize that the worlds outside of Gaia and Terra go through the same processes, and link into the 6 realms of Samsara depending on their ability to produce life or not. Terra itself will have had all these realms covered at one point until the Great Decline began. As Buddhism spans a vast region of our world, different countries have varying beliefs on how parts of Samsara work. One of these is the being that sits on the outside of the Wheel of Life, the god of death, Yama. Yama not only appears in Buddhism, but also the Hindu religion. However, we're going to focus on the Buddhist side of his involvement. While his story and appearance differ slightly depending on the country he is in, Yama is always the god of death, representing the impermanence of all things and the inevitability of death. He sits outside the Wheel of Life, holding it in place and essentially creating what we know as the cycle of rebirth. The main purpose of Samsara is to live your lives and attain true enlightenment, escaping the grip of Yama and reaching Nirvana. However, until such a time is reached, Yama will keep these souls in the Wheel of Life. Judging them upon their death, Yama will examine the character of the soul, questioning every aspect of their being and weighing it up against the karma they acquired in that life. From there, Yama will dispatch the soul to its appropriate realm, ready to be reborn, whether it is to Earth or one of the heavenly or hellish realms, and the cycle will repeat, sending you across many realms in your own cycle of rebirth. Now if we look at Necron and compare him to Yama, there are many parallels to their tales. Both these beings of death live on the outside of the Wheel of Life, where they judge a soul based on their questioning and understanding of their decisions in life, expressing the inevitability of death. Necron watches the realm of life from the Zero World in order to have his questions answered. Does life deserve to continue? Due to Kuja's involvement, he has deemed that all life should return to nothing. Regardless of what kind of life they have led, he just solely seeks to end everything because that is the answer to the question he has theorized over for thousands of years. Unlike Yama, who places souls back into their respective realms upon rebirth, it seems that Necron is unable to do this, having no physical means to enter the realm of life until Kuja attempted to destroy the crystal. However, it still seems he has a degree of control over the fates and outcomes of the souls within it, gripping tightly to the Wheel of Life in hopes that he can one day end it, trying to find the answer to the question he has longed to have answered. There is a lot of symbolism to be noted from Necron's design and placement. When the party are transported to the Zero World, a giant circular structure with holes in its architecture and eyes emblazoned all around it stands firmly above them, as if to show they have broken through the Wheel of Life into this realm of nothingness, greeted by the God of Death, who has watched millions of outcomes that have led to this point. Even Necron himself is surrounded by multiple rings, some with segments missing. The same ring can be seen around the crystal, adding more to the symbolism of the Wheel of Life and what happens when you break free from it in the universe of Final Fantasy IX. There is a level of juxtaposition to the true outcome of Samsara. We know that its purpose is to eventually leave and reach Nirvana, escaping the grip of Yama. However, in Final Fantasy IX, once their souls left the Realm of Life, they were greeted by nothingness from the Zero World, where the God of Death awaited. In essence, the crystal keeps the lives within it to continue the cycle and allow them to reach Nirvana, protecting them from the false Nirvana that awaits for them outside. Only fear and suffering existed in the Zero World, unlike the Nirvana of those of the Buddhist faith believed to exist once they leave their cycle of rebirth. Referencing back to the twin moons that we discussed in a previous video, we never truly know if Gaia and Terra were able to fuse, but we get a good idea from the end of the credits where it shows the moons combining together that it is possible they became one world and the moons became one as well. However, I didn't mention what else occurs in that instance. When the two moons fuse together, they reveal the crystal. We know from Samsara that the Buddha points to the moon as a way to Nirvana. Revealing the crystal after the fusion of the moons is essentially the game's way of hinting that the crystal has shown them towards Nirvana, and the combined world is now peace, free from war, strife, and greed, where the Gaians, Black Mages, and Genomes can live in harmony. While they may be stuck in the cycle of rebirth, the crystal has made sure their world now knows peace after the chaos that was caused by Garland and the Terrans over 5,000 years ago. And with Nirvana achieved, I want to do a quick breakdown on the wheel that we created one last time. The centre of the wheel is the Ether Tree, spreading out its roots of evil into the human realm. The 6 realms are affected by different beings, Garland in the God realm, the Gaian population, flora and fauna in the human and animal realms. The Black Mages and Genomes inhabit the Hungry Ghost realm, the Eidolons of the Demigod realm, and the Terrans who heavily associate with the Hell realm. While on the outside, we have Necron holding onto the wheel, the twin moons showing the state of Nirvana, and the crystal representing Buddha to show the way. This isn't something that I attached to the wheel image, but we also have the state of Bardo, is how the soul's memories will influence the evolution of life, with the 12 independent factors are how the souls are rebirthed from their world crystal. And now it is time to end this video and the mini-series on the cycle of rebirth of Final Fantasy IX. I hope you all enjoyed it and learned something new to give you a different interpretation and appreciation for the world building of Final Fantasy IX. I'll be doing more of these videos in the future, covering more lore and theories from across the Final Fantasy series and other game series as well, so I hope to see you there. Bye!